today what we're going to be looking at is NBT variables, and there are basically three kinds of different variables that you can do. You can do them for entities, and then you can do them for items, and you can also do them for blocks. There's different variable or procedure blocks that are for each different type of element. So we'll be looking at blocks today, but there are also ones that support items and entities as well. So what we'll be looking at is a block. We have to enable data under the block entity and check this box if we're going to be using that for our own entity for making sure that the NBT data is actually stored. So if you read the fine print right down here, it says a few things, but NBT tags are also included in this. So we need to check that box. We don't actually need anything else down here. We just need that box checked. And then under triggers, what I've done is when the player places the block, I am basically assigning the variables. So where can you find these variables? You can find them under block procedures and then actions. And then right at the top here, we have get NBT logic tag and then the tag name. Then we also have the value and the coordinates of that block. So we can actually specify a specific block in the world, or we can offset the location if we need to, or whatever we need to do with a regular coordinate one, just like we've covered in the past. The tag name is going to be the name of the variable. So for example, if we wanted to just store something like, I don't know, player, and then we might be getting the value might be like the player name, then we would set the name here, and then we would target those when we're getting the variables themselves, and then it'll give us the value when we get those variables. So under data, what we have is, if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, we have get NBT logic, tag, number, and string, and we would be specifying the tag name for that. So again, if I wanted to test for player, the display name, I would just make sure that these two are the same, and then we could basically test for the player itself. All right, so a pro tip when working with NB tags is to make sure that you put your namespace before your actual tag name. So for example, if I wanted to do latest, and then I would capitalize P, and then this would be a good way to separate your tags from other mods. Now, because tags aren't basically namespace driven, you have to kind of make sure that they're separated. If another mod ended up using any of these variables here, then it could cause conflict. So that's why I suggest using basically the namespace before you actually type your variable name for the NBT tag. Other than that, there are a few other locations that you can find similar tags. For entities, you can find them under the entity procedures, actions, and then scroll down a bit, and then you have the ones down here. Works exactly the same way. Only difference is it's applying it to an entity, not a block. And then we also can get those under the data tab. So if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, we have the variables down here, and items do have their own as well. So they work exactly the same way as basically blocks or entities. So we have our get custom data logic tag and number and string as well. Those would be our tag names, which are what we're assigning the variable to. And then what we have is our values on this side. And we're also specifying what item to apply here. And if we scroll all the way down to the bottom here, we have the ones that you would use the tag name and specify the item on this side. So let's go ahead and check how you can get this data in game and how it all works. So there is a whole bunch of different ways that we can actually get the data. So the first one we're going to look at is block. Place down the block. We obviously just added the NBT data because blocks need to be added in the physical world in order to actually have any data stored to them. Trying to assign the block data to an item like this won't work. We actually have to assign the item data instead to the block. So keep that in mind when you're actually working with a block in its item form, because they're two separate things, not the same thing. All right, so if we go ahead and use the data command, we're going to look at this block so it's outlined, and then we're going to go /data get block, and we're going to check for the block's location. And we can see that under NeoForge data, there is a array, and then we have score, open, and player. So I'm going to cover how these variables work really similarly and how they basically are structured. So D basically means decimal. So we have 125.0, that's going to be the decimal point. And then for Boolean, so true or false, what we have is open, and then we have 1 for true and 0 for false, and then we would have that be on the other side for Boolean. And then string use quotations, the double ones, and we would put our string name in between here. So for example, player string, and that's our string value. We can also add data to this value, but it needs to be under the same path as NeoForge data. So for example, if we go merge and then block, and then we can go with NeoForge data, and then we would do that and our curly brackets, and then we can put a new variable in here. We'll maybe say on is on quotation, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set this as 0b. You can also have a space between here, it doesn't really matter, and that will update the variable. So if we go ahead and check this again, we'll clear this, and then we'll get the data again, and then you can see that isOn is now part of the MBT, and it is set to 0 by default. So items are a little bit different. You can't actually test for them. As you can see, we don't actually have a way to test for a item. We have a way to test for a block, and we have a way to test for an entity, but we don't have a way to test for a item directly. So easiest way is to put it in a chest, your item, and I'm just going to make sure that this item actually has MBT, so we're going to hold it. I have the trigger to apply the MBT when it's in the main hand, so that's why I was holding it. We're going to just stick it in any slot, and then what we're going to do is we're going to get the data of the chest. As long as it has an inventory, we can actually see where it's going to be. So let me clear out this and just type that command again so we can see what's going on a little bit easier. So basically we have all the data for the chest itself. Now this is all going to be under the data for the chest. So we have to kind of figure out where it's going to be. Under items is going to be the group where the MBT is going to be stored. We have count, slot ID, and then under the components, that's where all the data is going to be located. So it's under Minecraft custom data. And then we have our actual data here for the MBT itself. So we have level, and we have a decimal point for the 111.43, and that's decimal. We also have the name of book, and then we also have a state of 1, which is a Boolean, so it's true. And then after that, we have just the regular chest other variables. So that's how you can basically check for a item. Now, when I right click on this entity, what we're going to do is we're going to assign data to it. So we can go ahead and check for this entity here. It's a little bit different than checking for a block. We need entity, and then we need to get the UUID of that entity. And that will give us a lot of data. So let's go ahead and make sure we have a clear chat so we can actually see what's going on. And it's very similar to blocks. What we want to do is we want to find the NeoForge data, and then we want to go under this tab for the array, and we have a whole bunch of different variables here. So again, if you were going to add MBT to this item or to this entity, you would basically do the same thing that we did for a block, target MBT or NeoForge, and then apply the variable that you want for this. So we have gender, male, and then we have active, and then 0, and health 100. So again, those are all the same variables that we're used to. All right, so setting a item data is a lot harder than doing the other two. So what I'm going to do is kind of just demonstrate how you would do that. And what we're going to first do is actually grab a new item because I've already tested this one out. We're going to put that one there, and we're going to make sure that it has the data. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put that in to our first slot. I'm going to get rid of this one. So if we go ahead and open up the block data, we can see that we have the entire path under items. So this is what we're going to be most interested in setting. We need to type all this out for the items, the count, the slot, the components. We don't need to do each component itself. We just need the custom data, and then add our specific data that we want in between these two brackets. So the one for on the other side of level and the one that is just on the other side of the B. And then we also need to specify the ID of the item. Those are the major things. So when you're actually going to type out this command, it looks something very similar to this. what we have is we have our data that we're going to be adding to the custom item. So this is going to be age. And then we have our ID, which is going to be our item ID. We have components, custom Minecraft custom data. We also need to specify the slot ID and the count of items that we're going to be updating. And this is all under the items tag itself. So I'll make sure to provide that in the description so you guys can use that easily. So if we do this right now, we'll merge the data and we can go ahead and check the data now. So we'll go ahead and check. And as you can see here, it has the age value now. So it has 100, where before we did not have age for the variables. So that's basically how you set the item data. It's a little bit more complicated and takes a lot more commands to actually type it out, but it is possible to do it that way. So I'll provide the commands that you need for all 3 different types of things in the description. So I'll pin the message so you will be able to, or I'll put it in the description. It'll be easier that way. And then you guys can use those as a template. Now, if you're working with Forge, not NeoForge, the NeoForge data is actually going to be just Forge data. If you're on NeoForge, and it's obviously going to be NeoForge instead. So just keep that in mind. I don't think the items have changed, but just to keep an eye on if they have or not. I'm not sure if they have. But other than that, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, comment down below, rate the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Peace out.